All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this RIMPA conference. Hope you are enjoying the sessions so far. I'm Pramiti, and I am a global black belt at Microsoft for data security and data privacy. I specialize in data compliance, data governance, and data security. And today, I am going to talk to you about exactly that, data security and data privacy. Okay, so let's start with this. Who missed this over the last few months? Is there anyone in the room who did not see these news or are not aware of all these kinds of cybersecurity data incidents happening around us? I think most of you would be aware of all these news and the various incidents that have hit the Australian market over the last few months. Now, why do these data incidents happen? If you look at this, as per research conducted by IBM, 83% of the organizations will be hit by at least one data breach in their environment, in their lifetime. So why do these data breaches happen? There are a variety of reasons that these data breaches can happen. If you look at the numbers there, about 20% of data breaches are actually caused by malicious insiders. And about 80% of the organizations use multiple point solutions to meet their different data security, privacy, and compliance requirements. This makes it very difficult for the organizations to have a single pane of glass or a consolidated view of what is happening in their data environment, which leads to information falling between the cracks, people missing out on the alerts, and thus these kind of breaches continue to happen because we miss that information and we are not able to stitch together the information provided to us by the disparate solutions that we use. Let's dive a little deeper into this problem. So at the core of our discussion and the core of the problem is the data. It is estimated that in today's world, approximately 39% of the people are working remotely, and they create about 120 zettabytes of data every year. That's huge. I can't even imagine the quantity of data that we are creating. And the data is no longer in the traditional perimeter boundaries of the organization where it is in a data center sitting on a file server safely locked. It is actually all over the place in different SaaS applications, in different clouds, and in both structured and unstructured format. Also, 30% of the decision makers say that they do not know where their data is or what the sensitive data is in their environment. It is also estimated that 93% of the data in an organization is dark. What that means is that the IT organizations, the business decision makers, the compliance officers, the data protection officers have no visibility of where this data is, who is it shared with, what are the risks surrounding that data, and what is going to happen if that data is exfiltrated or it reaches the wrong individuals. In addition, the compliance requirements are just growing. There are more and more regulations coming out every day, and we just heard about ASD Essential 8, and we all know there are so many acts within Australia, including ASD, IRAP, and ACSC, and APRA, and then we are also subject to things like PCI and stuff like that. And these regulators, it is also estimated that there are more than 250 updates to all these different regulations every single day. So organizations and data protection officers, legal officers have this mammoth task of protecting their data and at the same time having that much flexibility for their end users to get their job done. Obviously, it's not easy. In addition, 69% of the company's information is either obsolete or redundant or trivial. Again, all of us are data hoarders. None of us ever deletes anything. We don't believe in that. We think that we should keep all the data. We don't know when we are going to need it. Also, on an average, organizations wrestle with 5 different sources where their data is: clouds, on-prem, structured, unstructured, databases, SharePoint servers, file servers, SMB file shares. There are just so many systems where our data is distributed. In addition, today, we are also seeing that the responsibility of cybersecurity is shifting from the core CISO organizations. The legal teams are also assuming responsibility of cybersecurity. So, mitigating the risk is actually a team sport. At the center is the data, and we need to now bring in all the people for whom the data is important, or who touch the data or are responsible for the data. And this includes not just the IT team or the CISO team or the security team. It includes the end users, the business decision makers who create the data, who actually know what the business importance of that data is if it is lost. In addition, all of these people, all these different stakeholders have different expectations and different requirements for the data. As a business user, I might want all my data to be retained forever because I don't know when I might need it. As a compliance officer, I might want to retain as little data for as less time as possible because I want to meet the compliance requirements that the regulations impose on my organization. All right, I was about to say, please put yourself on mute, but okay, that's the remote worker in me. All right, so moving on, the legal team. The legal team might have a completely different set of requirements. So we need to bring in all these people to the party when we are thinking about our data protection, or data governance strategy, and how we think about data lifecycle. All of these stakeholders need to be involved and included and talk to each other and collaborate to come up with a solution that works not only for themselves, but also for the entire organization by protecting the data, meeting the compliance requirements, and also allowing the end users flexibility enough to work and get their job done. Let's see what happens if there is poor data governance. So as you can see, and as also mentioned, that organizations don't have visibility of data, which means that there is no proactive data governance in place, which means there are files with no business value that were either deleted, they are increasing in volume and exposure. Also, okay. So there are files with business critical data or with personal data, with PII or financial data that are at the risk of being overexposed. There are regulations which can be violated. And what happens when something like this happens? What happens if there is a data breach? Of course, you have a diminished brand reputation. We all know what happened to some of the organizations that were breached over time, the amount of fines that they had to go through, or the compensation that they had to probably provide to their customers when they lost their data and their data went into the hands of the wrong people, or the money that end users lost maybe because their bank accounts were hacked and all that information was shared. And lastly, now the organizations have to react to an incident, which means that before instead of being proactive and stopping the attack or stopping the breach, they now have to react. They have to do forensic investigation into what happened, who did what, why was the data lost, which again costs a lot of money, and there is some numbers that you can see on the screen, how much time and effort and resources it takes to actually investigate the cause of a breach. And data security incidents can actually happen anywhere at any time. So let's look at two examples on how this can happen either inadvertently or maliciously. So you can see as an example, there is a person who receives a confidential information by email, and they share a copy with a few workers or colleagues on Teams, and then they upload a copy to a personal Dropbox, and also they copy it offline just to work, so that when they are not connected, maybe where they are on the airplane and they want to work. So essentially creating multiple copies of data and data hoarding, and then the data is accidentally lost and accidentally exfiltrated. Or there is a malicious insider who actually receives some information which is very critical, business critical. They download a whole bunch of content from their internal SharePoint site or internal file server, and then they send copy of external value to their external email address, and then they copy some files to a USB, they print some files, and eventually the data is stolen maliciously, right? So as the heading of the slide says, the data does not move itself, people move data. So it is very important for us not just to understand the business value of the data, but also the intent behind the users who are using that data and moving the data from one location to the other. So it's extremely important for us to understand the user behavior and analyze the user behavior and understand whether it is malicious or it is just someone doing something without realizing the impact that it may cause to the organization. So to summarize, customer challenges can be seen in maybe 3 or 4 bullet points. Starting with attack surface, it's expanding because data is everywhere and there are multiple systems that we now need to secure. There is also a very rapid acceleration in the number and the sophistication of cyber crimes. No matter what we do, cyber crimes criminals are always one step ahead of us, and they are getting more and more sophisticated every single day. And the cost of cybersecurity incident, because of the fines imposed on us by the regulations, is increasing exponentially. And also challenging to find a solution that integrates with the multiple disparate solutions. So what do organizations need to do? So we need to ask ourselves these questions. Do we have a view of where the sensitive information is, and what value is that does that information have for our organization? How do we actually, as of now, protect the sensitive information across the data? So the first thing, do we know where the data is? Once we have that, do we have controls in place to protect that data? Once we have realized that it is in these systems, it has this business value, do we have controls in place to protect that data? And lastly, how are we managing risks today, including the insider risks? So this is what the organizations need to do, and we think of it in, or we can think of it in 4 broad categories. The first step is to know your data, which is discover the data and protect that data throughout its life cycle. Then understand the context of the data and why that data is being used and moved by users, and then preventing the data from reaching the unauthorized people or unauthorized parties from various different exfiltration points. As you can see, it could be email, chat messages, printing, and copying to USB. There are multiple ways. Okay. So now we have talked enough about the challenges that we are facing. Let's see how we can actually solve these challenges, or what are the options we have of solving these challenges. I would like to talk about Microsoft's approach to data security. Microsoft thinks about data security in this triangle that you see. So the first step, like I mentioned, is know your data, which is about knowing where your data is, which is all about data discovery. So there are tools in place or tools available which can actually help you discover the data. Microsoft Information Protection is that tool that can help you discover the sensitive data across your multi-cloud and on-prem environments and give you what kind of sensitive data is it, whether it is a bank account number or whether it is a credit card information or whether it is social security numbers, Medicare numbers. There is a whole bunch of sensitive information that we can help you discover. Once we have discovered this data, the next step is to protect this data by classification and labeling. So labeling is the kind of visual representation that we can give to a data, give to a particular artifact like a email or a file, which could say that this is a general use document or a highly confidential or top secret. And when you apply these labels, you can apply protection by way of encryption. So the content can be encrypted when the label is applied. And this label is persistent, it is clear text. It travels with the document regardless of where the document lives or travels. So even when the document leaves your organization's ecosystem and is sent outside the organization, the label goes with it. So if you send it to someone who is not supposed to be reading that document and they don't have permissions when the encryption was applied, even if they have the document with them, they save it on their computer, they will not be able to open it. There are many capabilities of information protection which I can talk about for an hour, but let's move on. The next step is data loss prevention, and we all know what data loss prevention is. So DLP is all about protecting the content from reaching unauthorized individuals, and Microsoft's DLP spans across multiple vectors, which is across email, files shared from SharePoint or OneDrive, channel and chat messages in Microsoft Teams, and with devices. And we cover multiple platforms as well. So again, people think that Microsoft protects only Microsoft. So we cover Windows 10, 11, Mac OS, and we have support for different browsers like Edge, Chrome, and Firefox to prevent exfiltration of data from all of these vectors. Lastly, insider risk. So this is a very key capability of Microsoft, which is kind of a UEBA solution or a user entity behavior analytics solution, which learns the user's behavior over time, and also you can create different policies about what is considered risky. It integrates with your HR connectors and your HR tools and your badging tools to understand when the user accessed the building or if they submitted their resignation. So consider a scenario where a user has submitted their resignation and they now want to take content with them. So it's again our hoarder mentality where we want to take our work with us. But there can also be insiders who could want to exfiltrate that content because they are joining a competitor. So usually when someone is malicious and they want to exfiltrate the content, they don't do that in one go. They don't download a whole big bunch of content and then copy it to a USB. They do it slowly over a period of time. So insider risk management learns that behavior of what the user is doing over a period of time, and then it can automatically raise the risk profile of the user to a high risk or a medium risk, or if the user is just doing their work, they can keep it at a minor risk. And that is where this circle of adaptive protection comes in, which is an integration between Microsoft's DLP and insider risk management solution. So what adaptive protection does is, once it learns the user behavior and decides that this user is a highly risky user and we have raised their risk level to elevated, it can dynamically assign this highly elevated user to a very restrictive DLP policy where they will not be able to say send any content externally, or they will be blocked from USB access, and we can apply various controls. Whereas a minor risk user or can get away with doing anything, or maybe a moderate user will just be shown a policy tip and they can just continue with their work. So with this adaptive protection capability, which we have recently announced, Microsoft is the only vendor on the planet to provide this kind of capability, which you can dynamically assign the risk, the DLP policies. Right, and I think I already covered most of this in the previous slide. Yeah, so a few more things that we can talk about in information protection area is that we offer two kind of capabilities where users can manually apply label to the content while they are interacting with the content, or we can also do real-time content inspection and suggest the user apply a label to their content. Because again, if you are going to have the users do all the heavy lifting of deciding which content should be labeled with what label, it's probably not going to work, because we are relying on the user's intent and their understanding of the label and the data itself. So most of the organizations that we talk to, we recommend that they do the automated labeling. And again, the automated classification and labeling can be done when the content is in use, and also done when the content is at rest on your on-prem world or your SharePoint and OneDrive environments. So we can do the content inspection and appropriately apply the label as per the policies that have been created. Okay, so moving on a little bit to the data governance area now. So data governance is again the process or the terminology used to take the data through its entire life cycle, from the time the data is created until the time it is safely disposed of. And yes, data does have a life cycle and it should be disposed of. This is something which we are seeing an increasing trend now. Most of the organizations are now focusing towards safely disposing of the data once it has served its business use. And for that, Microsoft offers two major solutions, which are the data lifecycle management and e-discovery. So diving a little deeper into both of these solutions, Microsoft Purview data lifecycle management, we can again, using this, you can apply labels again, but these are retention labels. So they are different from sensitivity labels, where sensitivity labels talk about the sensitivity of the content. Retention labels decide or define how long the content should be retained. So you could say that all the files in a particular SharePoint site need to be retained for 7 years for legal purposes. And after 7 years, what happens? Does the file get automatically deleted, or you want someone to review it before the file is deleted? So you can trigger a disposition review, which can go to 5 levels of reviewers, and once everyone approves, that file can be disposed of. And this is all legally defensible, so proof of disposition is maintained. So at any point in future, if you have to provide evidence for an internal or external investigation of what was done for that file, how was it legally, safely disposed of, you can use this as a proof for your investigation as well. You can also automatically delete data which has no business content. Like, for example, emails. We never delete any emails. I've been with Microsoft for more than 12 years. I have never deleted any emails. But organizations can actually have that policy, or for example, Teams chat. We do so many chats in today's world, and they just keep on going in the history. The content is huge. And you can, organizations can have a policy that, yeah, any chat that is, say, older than 2 years, probably not relevant anymore, those chat messages can be deleted. That reduces your data footprint, makes it more manageable. Again, the data lifecycle management has a native integration with a lot of Microsoft apps and a lot of third-party apps as well. So you can bring in content from other third-party applications in its purview so that you can extend the protection to them as well. Another important point which I would like to mention with the data lifecycle management capability is that we protect or we retain the data in place. So in traditional tools, you might have to move the data outside its original location into another system, which will be a records management system that will retain that data. And you create 2 copies of data and a lot of inefficiencies are introduced. But with Microsoft Purview data lifecycle management, data is retained in place. So if it is in SharePoint, it remains in SharePoint. If it is in Teams, it remains in Teams. If it is in mailboxes, it remains in mailboxes, and it lives its life over there. Which brings me now to e-discovery. So if we have too much data, if we never delete anything, and we get into an investigation or a litigation case, or there is an internal investigation, you need to run an e-discovery case. That's going to take as much time because it has to go through petabytes of data before it can come up with something useful. So it's really important to understand what data you don't need and get rid of it so that you have a slimmer data set to go through. Now, e-discovery. Again, this is, as the name suggests, there are several EDRMS tools out there. Microsoft Purview, e-discovery also, again, one of the main things that I would like to mention, it's in place. So when we are performing the e-discovery searches, you do not have to first copy the content out of its original location and perform a search on that. We perform in-place searches so that you don't have to create multiple copies of the data and again create inefficiencies and create more problems with data privacy. With the e-discovery, you get all of those capabilities of custodian management and putting content on hold. So you can say that this particular person or this group of people are under investigation and we want to make sure that they don't delete any content. So we are going to put their content on hold, which is like a version of litigation hold. We don't use that terminology anymore, but you can add them as custodians, which will actually put their OneDrives and some Teams messages that you want and their Exchange mailboxes and any other SharePoint sites on hold so that the content is there. You can also do communication with the end users. You can tell them that you are under investigation, so your content is on hold. You can get them to acknowledge the hold notifications. These are all optional capabilities. Some organizations have a legal requirement to notify the people that they are under investigation. Once you run the investigation search, you can do various searches. You can do searches on Teams chat, and when you search on Teams chat, we not only give you the particular message that meets the Teams, which meets your search criteria. Say you were looking for a ABN number or any conversation that was done about that ABN number, and it was sent in one chat message. That probably doesn't mean anything. You need to understand the context. So we give you the preceding and the succeeding messages in a threaded format, which can be exported as a HTML transcript for your legal team and the lawyers to really understand the context under which that ABN number was shared. In addition, there are tools which are available within the e-discovery, which can help you intelligently cull that data. So you can tag files which are not required, you can exclude them from the final review set, you can redact sensitive information like social security numbers or Medicare numbers or TFN numbers. You can redact that information, you can annotate, and you can commit those redactions to a PDF and export them in a PDF format. So there are a lot of capabilities again available with the e-discovery premium tool. So let me move on with this now. Why Microsoft? Why should you choose Microsoft for your data protection, data governance needs? Microsoft is the world leader in security, and just outside I was having a conversation with someone. Security is a blanket term that we use, but when we say security, we actually mean data security, data governance, and everything else that we know about security like threat vectors and attacks. And the numbers on the screen speak for themselves. We are investing $20 billion in the next 5 years in cybersecurity R&D. We analyze 65 trillion signals every single day, which makes our ecosystem very rich to be able to identify these attacks. And the last couple of slides that I will leave you with is Microsoft is recognized as a leader in 6 Forrester Wave reports, and those are too small to read over there. But if I am to start, it is about the endpoint detection and response. It is about email security, analytics platforms, infrastructure as a service, and data security platforms. And also, Microsoft is recognized as a leader in the IDC market space worldwide for e-discovery as well. That's about what I had to talk about today. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and if you have any questions about Microsoft's data security and data protection capabilities, we have our booth outside. Please feel free to come there and have a conversation with us. Thank you.